Good evening. I'm going to be returning to the longer form videos in the next few days or weeks. And in the meantime, I do have one shorter one here to offer. And it's a bit of a continuation on the previous one of how the process of designing war games has changed with technology. And I will deal with two issues that I think a lot of people take for granted if they've grown up with them, and some of the rest of us are probably impressed, but we don't think about it very much. And there are two elements of the progress from pen, paper, Sharpie, magic marker, and a typewriter to doing everything on the computer that make life a whole lot easier. The first one is the ability to cut and paste. We're used to doing this in a lot of things, but for wargame designers, it can be a huge bonus. One big element of this bonus is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. You design a game, you're not really starting from scratch. You can reuse elements from other games, even if they're not on the same series, they're not on the same scale. You can still reuse stuff. For example, most movement rules are pretty much the same, with a little bit of tweaking perhaps for terrain or weather. You can't move further than the movement allowance permits. You might be able to move one hex regardless of movement allowance, zones of control. There are variations of that, but the core remains pretty much the same. There's no reason why a designer cannot copy from one game to the next and then modify it. I remember going back about 40 years when Jim Dunnigan retook the helm at Strategy and Tactics. He talked about designers perhaps having a whole library of such elements that they could put in, cut and paste, and then modify. I kind of think of it almost like object-oriented programming, where a structure or a class can be reused from one software package to the next. Board game designers can do the same thing if they wish, and maybe have a whole bunch of mechanics, a library from which they can copy and modify. Just as long as they don't get silly about it and forget stuff. Like, for example, design an operational game on the Battle of the Bulge that talks about the bonus for Athenians fighting Persians. I mean, be careful what you carry over. And try to keep it within bounds, and always review your work. Validate, validate, validate. So cutting and pasting can be a great time saver, and it prevents you from having to reinvent the wheel every time. As you know, you can get errors by cutting and pasting from your own work. It's not plagiarism, by the way. It's not even self-plagiarism. And I teach about both. But reinventing it from the ground up also leaves room for error. I think it can leave more room for error. So use the Control plus C for copy, Control plus V for paste. Look it over, modify it, change the rule case. You're in business. It's a lot simpler than doing it from the beginning every single time, especially when you're looking for the same mechanic. That is a big bonus. The second one is kind of related, and that is the ability to edit. In the old days, when everything was manual, editing was tough. It was a big job on any big project. I rewrote my master's thesis. I believe I was on the fourth draft when it was finally submitted. And a couple times I was told, okay, rewrite this one chapter, which I would do. But to keep the pagination the same and save myself a huge headache, I would rewrite it and try to get the pages in the same order, the same number of pages. All on a Smith Corona electric typewriter. Trust me, you don't want to do that. It's much easier to go in. You've got a draft of rules, open up the file, make your changes, save it, maybe put the date or a number at the end to indicate that it's which generation, which iteration it is. You're in business. It's a lot easier. I think, for example, the approximately 6 months I took to write my master's thesis, today I could probably do it inside of 6 weeks. Thank you, Mr. Gates, for giving us Word. And thank you, Mr. Adobe, for giving us PDFs. Makes life a lot easier. You can also modify graphics. Now that's the same thing. Something on the map needs changed. You don't have to get out the whiteout. I don't remember the last time I even used whiteout, but you go in, you open the file, you make your changes, you export it perhaps. Bing, bang, boom, you're in business. Even if you get to the stage that you have your map in Vassal, that's not that bad to change. I know when Alan Snyder and I were playtesting Italy 1943, Mark Simonich did a lot of work on the map after we started. He changed some very important design features. We'd get a new Vassal module and we'd start playing. He changed a lot of stuff with victory points. Again, same thing. From the playtester's point of view, there really wasn't too much to it. Mark does such great work, I assume that he put a little more time and energy into it than perhaps I'm seeing and I'm telling you about, but it was a lot easier than the old days. So the computer graphics, computer text, word processing, editing on the computer, it all adds up that you can make even major changes a lot easier than in the old days. That a designer is not necessarily locked into a major component that can't be touched. No, there's no reason for that now. And it's one more reason why any game I will design from now on, assuming I ever get the time to do so, I still have to put up Halloween decorations, by the way, that, and here we are on October 5th, that we are, as designers, we can make changes. We can even do major surgery if necessary on a game. And it's not going to entail starting from the beginning. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we generate a new iteration of the game for playtesters or the developer. I think that this opens up a lot of room too for better quality. That nothing is too big to change, nothing is too big really to be reassessed. And then on top of that, we have things like spell check now that we're not going to have so many crimes against the English language, so many struggles between the designer and English, and both of them end up losing. That's not going to happen quite as much. That Word will tell you when it's something needs looked at. I think in the long run that this is making the design process better. In my experience, it's much easier. It's more fun. And I think that the quality control is going to improve. It absolutely should. Because it's also removing excuses. So these are all things that I think come from the technology that can help a designer get better and help the game become a better product. And that's just my viewpoint. Your mileage may differ. So, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. Please feel free to like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends, colleagues, bitter enemies, dogs, cats, whatever. But feel free to pass it around. I'm not hiding anything under a bushel basket, so have fun with it, and I hope that others can as well. And I will see you probably in a few days hoping for less than a week. So talk to you then. Bye.